And I quote, "I'll be there in a minute. Give me a second."
Time is relative, folks. Time is relative.
Yes. So, hey, cheers to everybody in the chat. They're a division rival. I don't care how many wins they get. Screw them.
That wasn't the take I was expecting to hear.
I want to gush over watching live Chris Tanev.
I think that we completely underestimate the skill it takes to play defense.
One highlight or several highlights does not a Calder trophy make.
I'm stepping in here. I'm going to be the crotchety old man here. They need to learn patience. They need to understand the tension, and everything, and the drama.
How dare! Look at this. How is McDavid not getting a penalty?
You guys need to calm down with this, okay? You guys need to calm down with it.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Shifts and Pucks News Pack for Friday, December the 9th. You can follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks, Twitch.com Shifts and Pucks. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. As game day for the Calgary Flames, a significantly interesting game day. One of the intriguing game days in a while for a number of reasons. And what we thought was the most interesting part of this game going in is actually buried. They've buried the lead, as they say in the business today. So we'll get into that. Lots of other games. It's 97 versus 97 in Edmonton, and a few other things going on. A pretty significant injury coming out of Vegas as well. So we'll get into that. But the big news out of Calgary, well, okay, first of all, before we get to that news, I do think it's important to a tweet this morning from Kelsey Snow in regards to Chris Snow, assistant general manager for the Calgary Flames. I'll just read this. And, you know, I think this is one that affects not only Flames fans, but the hockey community in a deep way. Chris has been fighting with ALS, and Kelsey's been very vulnerable in her and open about their journey. Yesterday, Chris was admitted to hospital. He was doing great when kids and I left at 8 p.m. Overnight, he took a turn for the worse and had to be put on a ventilator. No, we wait to see if he will get better. We are very sad and very scared. Hug your people. Life is so tenuous. And I just wanted to start before anything else. That, above everything else that we're about to talk about here, is the most important thing is health and family. And our thoughts and prayers are to the Snow family for sure. I can say that for all of us on the Shifts and Pucks group. We all support that, no matter what team one cheers for. But there we go. But Calgary made some news yesterday, and it's in regards to Matthew Phillips. It's been the big talking point in Calgary for a while. I suggested it would happen last week because the Flames are at home. But the Flames finally did call up Matthew Phillips, the leading goal scorer leading point getter in the AHL. He is expected to make his debut tonight against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Johnny Gaudreau and the Columbus Blue Jackets, which we all thought was the most interesting part of this game. Now, all eyes are on Matthew Phillips. And the big question was, the first question is, would they call him up? Answer yes or no. Yes, they did. That answer is yes. So obviously, that's resolved. But the second part of this is where Matthew Phillips was playing and who he would play with. And Daryl Sutter was quoted this morning. This was a tweet from Eric Francis here about Sutter. He's an awesome kid. He's got an awesome skill set, and he's a really good competitor. But the next part is his size. That part is clear. Playing with a team with good size tonight, so it's always an issue. Looks like through skating line rushes, he's playing with Trevor Lewis and Milan Lucic. Now, the other part of this is Kevin Rooney, who has 1 assist this year. A guy I was cheering for, has struggled. I can't say that he hasn't struggled. Was placed on waivers. We'll find out. We'll find out later if he has been claimed or clears. Either way, it looks like Raheem Zahorna is going to be with the team. That is the speculation of the next Wrangler that will be called up. And I guess we'll see if that's the line going forward. So likely tonight it's Lewis, Lucic, and Phillips, but we'll see how this goes forward. I know that a lot of people are not happy with Matthew Phillips playing with Trevor Lewis and Milan Lucic, but but remember, and I'll take some history here. Theoren Fleury started with a very similar type of line when he played. He played on the fourth when he made his debut with the Flames a number of years ago, back in '89. He was in the same position, really exciting kid, brought a spark to that 89 team, 88-89 team. And he played on the first line as well. So on the fourth line, by the way, as well. So this is a way kind of to get Matthew Phillips acclaimed and customized. And I know that nobody's a fan of Lewis and Lucic in terms of how they're playing. I mean, I think there's a lot of thought around what you do next with Lucic for sure, and Brett Ritchie and Trevor Lewis. In terms of how you're going to use them, I tweeted yesterday, I think after the first period, Daryl sent them to be the ushers at the Saddle Dome. But we'll see if this helps everybody else in terms of it. They're not going to set it. Obviously you want from Phillips' perspective, you want him to play with a skilled guy. But the other counter that I would ask is the way the lines have been going the last few games, where are you changing? Like, how are you changing the Lindholm, Huberdeau, Toffoli line? And Kadri, Dubé, Mangiapane have found some chemistry. And Backlund, Coleman, and Ruzicka is playing really well. And the guy that would be the candidate to move to the bottom of that to move up Phillips would be probably instantly Adam Ruzicka, and he doesn't deserve that the way that he's played. So this is where Matthew Phillips has to play at this point, and we'll see what happens going forward. There's back-to-back games here, so we'll see how he's going to be used. We're going to see if Zahorna is going to be used, and then the other question in here with the Flames is goal. When do they play Markstrom? Do you run with Vladar first? This is a back-to-back. Would suspect, and 3 and 4 nights. So I would suspect we're going to see Jacob Markstrom, which would be one of the first games he's played since he said he sucked at hockey. So we're going to see where Markstrom's mentality is at. This game tonight, when you could consider a winnable game, as the Blue Jackets are really struggling this year. I don't think people are I'm surprised that they're in the basement. I kind of thought I expected not a basement team from the Columbus Blue Jackets. I didn't expect a playoff team, but I didn't expect a basement team. And that's kind of where they are at this point in the Eastern Conference. So we've got that. Johnny Gaudreau, of course, playing his former team. Erik Gudbranson, playing his former team as well. He's talked about the Columbus Blue Jackets practice habits. But 8-15-2 are the Columbus Blue Jackets, and currently 13 points out of a playoff spot, which is held by the second wild card in Detroit. And then in Calgary, they're coming in 13-10-3. They've won 2 in a row. Columbus has lost 2 in a row, and Calgary sitting in the last wild card spot, 1 point ahead of Edmonton, 2 points ahead of Colorado. The other thing, I never got the chance because didn't do a show yesterday because of work schedule, but got to acknowledge Tage Thompson's 5-goal performance, though, before we get to the other games. Tage Thompson, got to acknowledge that 5-goal performance. The guy continues to be a breakout, and that Ryan O'Reilly trade didn't turn out great at the start, but this is why you have to be patient with players sometimes. Tage Thompson is a great example of that. There were some people that just thought this was a guy that had some size but nothing else, and now Tage Thompson is making a huge impact. He's the Buffalo Sabres, I still think the Buffalo Sabres are, it's not this year, but I still think they're a good team. There's a lot of good pieces in Buffalo. It's just they haven't been able to get it all together. But we're seeing something being built there, and I mean he's fourth in the league in scoring. He's behind the McDrysaddles and Jason Robertson with 40 points. He's just been impressive there for sure. So got to acknowledge that. But let's get to the rest of the schedule here in the NHL. We've got a fairly busy Friday, all things considered. You got Pittsburgh and Sidney Crosby, by the way, against Tage Thompson. We'll start that. That's it. Crosby, by the way, 8th in scoring with 35 points. People forget about him. And as well there. So Pittsburgh trying to sit currently in 3rd place in the Metropolitan Division at 32 points. The Sabres are 6 points out of a playoff spot. We've got the Islanders in New Jersey. That should be interesting. The Islanders sitting in the first wild card spot at 32 points. New Jersey continuing to pace the partially help be paced with the Eastern Conference with the Boston Bruins with 43 points, but pacing the Metropolitan Division there with first place. Then you've got Seattle taking on Washington as Washington returns from a road trip. Seattle still sitting in second with 33 points. Some people are wondering if this team is starting to fade, but I just will remind you they're 8-1-1 on the road this year. So I'm still believing the Kraken are still going to hang around this playoff spots here. So I'm hanging in with them. Washington, they've been so beat up, so injured. They're 3 points out of a playoff spot though. So maybe hanging in until they get their health back. You've got Winnipeg, who came off that 5-2 win over St. Louis last night. They're playing Chicago tonight. They are tied for first with Dallas and finding ways to win. Connor Hellebuck definitely has to be in the lead for Vezina Trophy here. The Rangers against Colorado. The Rangers are tied with Detroit for that second wild card spot, for that playoff spot there. Colorado also similarly sitting in 2 points out of that second wild card spot. So big game for both of them. McKinnon, of course, out for 4 weeks there. And we also got Minnesota and Edmonton. It's Kaprizov versus McDavid, 97 versus 97. That Minnesota Wild team has some pieces that I don't think people forgot. People remember. Mason Shaw, Connor Dewar. I thought played pretty well when Minnesota came to Calgary. But they're sitting in 3rd place with 28 points in the Central. The Oilers, you've got some goaltending questions with Campbell and Skinner. You've got this question with Jesse Puljujarvi, who 1 goal in 20 games, maybe said he's not good. He also just made the "I'm not good at hockey" comment this weekend too. Wonder what's happening there, but certainly the Oilers feel a bit more inconsistent for some reason this year. But an inconsistent start with some still plaguing issues that have always been there with the Oilers as well. Boston taking on Arizona as the Mullets are out. I'm not going to dignify Zdeno Chara's remarks about the Stanley Cup thing. Maybe we'll talk about that on Sunday. I'm not going to spend enough time on that comment here. And also, finally, we've got Philadelphia taking on Vegas. Alex Pietrangelo will be out indefinitely. He has an injury. We'll touch on that here as injury news here. The Flyers are wounded as well. And he hasn't played since the 26th. It's due to a family illness here. It's not an injury, pardon me, but he's taking some time away to be with his family. So all the best to Alex Pietrangelo for that. And finally, we've got San Jose taking on Anaheim in the Connor Bedard Bowl. As these two teams are near the bottom of the standings. The Ducks are 17 points, are in last. They're playing San Jose, who has 21 points. So that's the schedule in the National Hockey League. Tonight, big games. Canucks play tomorrow against the Minnesota Wild as the Wild will go back-to-back. The Flames, of course, in Toronto tomorrow as they go as the Wild go back-to-back. The Flames go back-to-back, as mentioned as well. In terms of other games, we'll just touch on the AHL here. This one's short here. We've got, in terms of the schedule, we've got the Wranglers are playing the Gulls twice this weekend at home. So that is coming up here. Is that tonight? Yes, it is. So that happens. So we'll see what happens with the Wrangler lineup. But Milwaukee's playing Hartford, Belleville's playing Laval, Toronto against Syracuse, Coachella against Vegas, Utica against Rochester, Grand Rapids against Springfield, Cleveland against Wilkes-Barre, Iowa against Rockford, and Chicago against Texas. And then, as mentioned, the Gulls taking on the Wranglers, and Ontario taking on Tucson, and Henderson Silver Knights taking on Colorado, and the Abbotsford Canucks are taking on the Manitoba Moose, by the way, tonight as well. And Coachella Valley is taking on San Jose. Sorry, mispronounced something earlier. It is one other game there. Charlotte taking on Lee Valley. I said that was Coachella Valley. Pardon me. Charlotte is taking on Lee Valley tonight. And in the WHL, here we've got, and then we'll touch on World Juniors here. We got the Calgary Hitmen in action tonight as they are on the road against Moose Jaw. We got Regina taking on Prince Albert, Seattle taking on the Winnipeg Ice, Medicine Hat taking on Lethbridge, Oil Kings taking on the Red Deer Rebels. The Vancouver Giants are in Kamloops to take on Logan Stankoven and the Blazers. You've got Seattle taking on Everett, and you've got the Rockets hosting the Victoria Royals, and Prince George taking on Tri-Cities. Dylan Gunther, Shane Wright, Brant Clark have been loaned officially to the Canadian team for the World Juniors as they get that roster set here. And of course, Wright, has been the focus of a lot of people because he hasn't been playing with Seattle. Dylan Gunther's had a pretty good year, though, in Arizona. And I think he's making an impact there. And I think that this is just a great opportunity for him. In some of these international competitions, he hasn't necessarily been the spotlight guy, but this still doesn't mean that this guy's not a good player. He has 11 points in 21 games for the Coyotes, 3 goals, 8 assists. And so he's been playing pretty well. Brent Clark, he didn't make the last World Junior team. There was but people are still really high on him, and they should be. He's a really talented defenseman, no question about it. 19 years old. He's only played 9 games though with the Kings. 8th pick in the 2021 draft, 2 assists. I think this will be a great opportunity for him to get his game together, get some confidence. That World Juniors is going to be fun, and we will talk a lot more about that as we get to that. But we're going to leave it there. We're back on Sunday for a regular podcast with the group. Of course, you can follow us all individually on Twitter. Tyler TNOBLE, Sean Beardy Canuck 03, Devin Gordhow 09, Chris Schneid's SCHNEIDZ. I am KEVOLE, Shifts and Pucks at Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Area 51 Sports Network. We thank you for watching. We thank you for listening. We'll talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.